My husband cheated on me and said, well, go away then. I left without saying a word. A few days later, his father burst into his house shouting, do you even realize what she did? Anna woke up. The spot next to her in bed was empty. Mark was gone. He usually slept longer than she did. The unusual silence in the house made her uneasy. She got up, put on her robe and walked silently to the kitchen, expecting to see him there, making his morning coffee. But the kitchen was empty and the silence in the house was so deep that it echoed in her ears. Her heart began to beat a little faster. Maybe he got up early to work in his office. Mark often brought work home. His office, located on the first floor, turned into his personal kingdom, where she was rarely allowed to enter without knocking. Anna approached the door of the office, from which barely audible whispers seeped. Several voices. One was Marco, the other a woman. The third was very quiet, like a suppressed laugh. Sveta. The name floated into her consciousness effortlessly, as if it had been there for a long time, hidden deep, waiting for its moment. Sveta, a young, ambitious employee whose eyes always lingered too long on Mark when they attended rare corporate dinners. Mark always called her a promising employee and very talented. Anna felt a pang of jealousy, but always brushed it off, considering herself stupid and ridiculous. Now these voices, these whispers, cut her heart sharper than any knife. She pressed her ear to the cold wood of the door, and the words, like shards of ice, seeped through the crack. Come on, Mark, your father will be home soon. We need to finish. Sveta's voice was excited, but there was also a brazen intimacy in it that made Anna shudder. Let him wait, Mark answered hoarsely. And there was something in his voice that Anna had never heard before. An impatient passion. Completely alien to both of them. A couple more minutes. There was a muffled laugh, then the sound of a kiss, loud, obscene, and like a slap. Anna recoiled from the door as if it had suddenly caught fire. Her lungs were squeezed. The air seemed thick and heavy. She wanted to scream, to smash this door to pieces, to burst in and tear them both apart. Her feet were rooted to the floor, and her voice was stuck somewhere deep in her throat, unable to break out. Her fingers trembled as she felt for the door handle. Slowly, as if in a dream, she turned it. The door gave in, revealing a picture that was forever burned into her memory. Mark and Sveta were standing in the middle of the office in the semi-darkness, which only emphasized their nakedness and embarrassment. Clothes were scattered on the floor, Sveta's hair was disheveled, her lips were swollen, and her eyes were shining with what? Shame or triumph? Mark, with his shirt unbuttoned and his face distorted by a mixture of surprise and irritation, looked as if he had been caught off guard, but without the slightest hint of remorse. The air in the room was thick with the heavy smell of Sveta's perfume, mixed with sweat and something else, disgusting and sticky, that she would recognize anywhere, the smell of betrayal. Sveta, quickly covering her chest with her hands, turned pale. Anna, she breathed out. There was panic in her voice, but also something like a challenge. Mark, on the contrary, did not flinch. His face, always expressive in emotions, froze in a mask of cold indifference. He slowly buttoned his shirt, looking at Anna with an empty, detached gaze. There was no guilt, no regret, not even a shadow of remorse in his eyes. Only an icy detachment that cut more painfully than any insult. Anna stood in the doorway like a statue. Her heart, which had been pounding furiously just a moment ago, now froze, turning into a piece of ice. She looked at them, at this dirty scene, and felt how something inside her was breaking, crumbling to dust. All these years spent together, their plans, dreams, vows, all of it was just an illusion, dispelled one vulgar morning. What are you doing here? Mark's voice was low and completely devoid of emotion. He hadn't even bothered to dress completely. He just stood there, in an unbuttoned shirt and trousers. As if this situation was completely ordinary for him. Didn't I tell you not to enter my office without knocking? Anna couldn't believe her ears. No apology, no explanation, no hint of an attempt to soften the blow. Just irritation, as if it were her fault for daring to expose their filth. "Mark," she whispered. Her voice was strange, weak. "What, Mark?" He took a step toward her, and there was a cold light in his eyes that Anna had previously taken for the toughness necessary for business. Now she realized it was cruel. "What do you want to hear?" "What am I going to say?" "I'm sorry." "For what?" He waved his hand at himself and Sveta, as if their embrace was something natural and inevitable. "This is my life, Anna. And if you don't like it," he paused. His gaze became completely impassive. "If you don't like it, go away." The words fell on her like tons of concrete, pressing her to the ground. "If you don't like it, go away." There was so much contempt in it, so much confidence in his own impunity. He was a director in his father's company, a man who considered himself above any rules. And she was just a housewife, dependent on him for everything. He knew it, and he used this knowledge. He was sure that she had no choice, that she would cling to this marriage, to this house, to his name. But Mark was wrong. In the depths of Anna's soul, through the pain and shock, a thin but elastic string broke through. A string of pride. "Go away." Anna's voice, to her own surprise, grew stronger. "Good." She turned and left the office without looking back. Her steps were firm and measured, although everything inside was torn apart. She went up to the bedroom, where a few minutes ago she had been lying, happy in her ignorance. Now this room seemed alien, infected, like the whole house. Anna did not pack all her things, only the most necessary. Several sets of clothes, documents, some money, the jewelry that Mark had given her and which now seemed like a mockery. Every movement was mechanical. It was as if she were watching herself from the outside. Too strong to be experienced right away. She put it aside. Locked it somewhere deep to deal with it later, when she was safe. But when her hand came across a small black flash drive lying at the bottom of her old jewelry box, a light flashed in her eyes. It was the same flash drive that she had painstakingly filled in recent months. Evidence. Since Mark became the director, he had become strangely closed, always in touch with his father, always discussing business. He suddenly began to avoid talking about work at home. His calls became quieter. His conversations on the phone are more secretive. At first, Anna did not pay attention to it, but then indirect signs began to appear. The expensive gifts that Mark gave Sveta, despite the fact that Sveta was only subordinate. His constant absences, which he explained by business trips, but never brought back any souvenirs or reports. And then one day she accidentally overheard a snippet of conversation between Mark and Sveta, where left-wing accounts and transfers were mentioned. It was a few months ago. Anna's intuition, sharpened by years of marriage, told her that something was wrong. She began to look closely, to listen. She was a simple housewife, but she was not stupid. She knew how her father-in-law's company worked. She knew that Mark had access to all the financial documents. And she knew how to use the internet to check some facts. Using her old forgotten skills, acquired back in university, she began to act. At first timidly, then with increasing confidence. She noticed how Mark left his work laptop open. His passwords, written down on a sticky note under the keyboard. She began to discreetly copy files, save emails, take screenshots of bank transfers, record strange transactions. She didn't understand everything in detail, but she saw the big picture. Mark and Sveta were using shell companies to funnel money out of their father's company, accumulating capital for their own secret business. Their scheme was complex, but not flawless, and Anna unraveled it step by step. Every document, every email, every number she found was carefully copied and saved on that flash drive. She didn't even know why she was doing it. Maybe for her own protection. Maybe simply because she couldn't accept the deception. Now, holding that flash drive in her hand, she realized that this was her answer, her weapon. Descending the stairs, she made a detour and went into Mark's father's office. Her father-in-law. He hadn't arrived yet. His office was empty and quiet. She entered, her heart pounding. But now it was no longer fear, but cold determination. Her father-in-law's office was spacious and strictly furnished. On the massive desk, polished to a shine, lay neatly folded documents. Anna, without thinking, approached the table. Carefully, almost without touching the surface, she placed the flash drive on the very top of the folder with documents, so that it was impossible not to notice it. Then she straightened up, looked around one last time and left the house. The door closed behind her quietly, without a creak, without a slam. She did not look back, did not cry. The tears seemed to have dried up. There was only a cold, empty feeling inside and a light breeze of hope. She stepped into the unknown, but in this unknown there was more freedom than in her entire marriage. Several days passed. Anna's days were filled with silence and a strange new peace. She rented a small apartment in another part of the city, far from their old house. From Mark, from everything that reminded her of pain. She began to look for a job, went through old contacts. Felt how life was gradually returning to her. In the evenings, she lay staring at the ceiling and allowed herself to feel pain, anger, bitterness, but also a strange relief, as if a heavy stone had fallen from her soul. Mark had not called. He had not even tried to find her. This confirmed everything she now knew about him. He was sure that he was right, that he could not be punished. He was a director. He was the son of a rich and influential father. He considered himself untouchable. He was sure that Anna would return, confessing or simply disappear, leaving no trace. But Anna did not need his attention. She knew that her quiet action would soon bear fruit. And she waited. Mark's father, Pavel Petrovich, was a man of the old school. Tough, but fair. He had built his company from scratch, brick by brick. He believed in honor, in decency, in family values. He loved and was proud of his son Mark, considering him his successor, the continuer of his life's work. He trusted him completely, handed over the management of the company into his hands, hoping that Mark would carry on his legacy through bastard. The morning of that day began for Pavel Petrovich as usual. He arrived at the office early, enjoying the silence before the start of the working day. Entering his office, the first thing he did was go to his desk, and then his gaze fell on something unusual. On the very top folder with reports lay a small black flash drive. Pavel Petrovich frowned. He was a man of order and never left anything extra on his desk. This flash drive was someone else's. Whose was it and how did it end up here? He had no doubt that this was Rukana's business. He knew her calm nature, her attentiveness. He always treated her with warmth and considered her an ideal wife for his eccentric son. He took the flash drive and his eyebrows crawled up. Curiosity got the better of him. He inserted the flash drive into his computer, opened the folder, and his eyes widened. Evidence of Mark and Sveta's fraud. This inscription made his heart skip a beat. Inside the folder were hundreds of files, bank statements, contracts with shell companies. Emails, meeting minutes, screenshots of correspondence, names, dates, amounts. Everything was laid out on shelves, like carefully prepared charges. Each piece of evidence was signed, numbered, explained. It was work done with incredible scrupulousness and meticulousness. At first, Pavel Petrovich felt shock, then disbelief. His son, Mark, who day after day proved his loyalty to him, his hard work. This could not be true. This was some kind of mistake, some kind of absurd slander, the revenge of an offended woman. He began to look through the documents one by one. Minutes turned into hours. The sun rose higher, flooding the office with light. But Pavel Petrovich did not notice this. His face became more and more gloomy. First, slight bewilderment, then cold rage, and then the burning pain of betrayal. His son, his own blood, was systematically robbing him, withdrawing money from his company, destroying his business to open his own business with this saint. It was so sophisticated, so cold-blooded, that Pavel Petrovich felt his world crumble. Sveta. He had always been wary of her. She was too helpful, too intrusive, but he trusted Mark, and Mark trusted her. Now he understood that this girl had not only seduced his son, but had also turned him into an accomplice in crime. As the last file was reviewed, Pavel Petrovich leaned back in his chair. His breathing was ragged. His face turned pale, then purple with anger. This was not just theft, it was betrayal. Double betrayal. His son had betrayed his trust, and his wife had betrayed his marriage. And this silent, inaudible theft had been planned by his son, by his blood, for his own enrichment. Everything inside him was seething, a rage so hot it threatened to tear him apart. He grabbed the phone and dialed Mark's number. "Come to me immediately. And Sveta too." His voice was so low and threatening that Mark on the other end of the line flinched. And no late arrivals. Mark and Sveta arrived at Pavel Petrovich's office, pale, but with a demonstrative look of innocence. Sveta tried to smile, but the corners of her lips trembled. Mark was acting arrogant, as always. They didn't yet know what awaited them. They were expecting a routine morning meeting. Perhaps a reprimand for some minor oversight. The office door swung open and Pavel Petrovich burst through. His face was distorted by a grimace of rage. He was furious in a way they had never seen. His eyes, usually kind and wise, burned with a cold fire. Then he threw the flash drive on the table in front of Mark, so that it bounced off and fell right in front of Sveta's feet. "What was that?" Mark picked up the flash drive. His face became questioning. "Father, what is this?" "Don't lie to me, Mark," Pavel Petrovich roared. His voice boomed throughout the office. He walked up to the table and slammed his fist on the polished surface, making all the documents jump. "I saw everything, every dirty scheme of yours, every transfer, every fictitious account, everything you took out of my company to create your fucking business." Mark's face, usually so arrogant, instantly turned pale. Sveta, who was standing next to him, sucked in the air and clutched her chest as if she was having a heart attack. Her eyes darted wildly around the office, looking for a way out. "Father, you don't understand. This is not what you think." Mark began to stutter. His voice trembled. "Not that." Pavel Petrovich grinned sarcastically. Such disappointment, such pain was visible in his eyes that Mark became truly scared. "You were robbing me, your father. All my life I built this business to pass it on to you. And you just wanted to destroy it. And for what?" For this, he pointed at Sveta, who was now shaking like an aspen leaf. "For this crap that led you into this filth." "Pavel Petrovich, this is not true," squeaked Sveta. "We did nothing. Be silent." Pavel Petrovich's voice was so menacing that Sveta shuddered and took a step back. "I saw the evidence. Anna collected everything. Every document, every email, all your negotiations with shell companies. Mark, your own wife turned out to be smarter and more decent than both of you." The mention of Anna made Mark shudder. He remembered her quiet departure. Her unspoken sentence. He was so confident in his impunity that he did not even think that she could start something. "Mark, are you fired?" Pavel Petrovich's voice was cold as ice. "Immediately. And you, Sveta, too." But Father Mark took a step forward, trying to appeal to his paternal feelings. "This is your company, my career." "Career?" Pavel Petrovich laughed, but it was a laugh of complete bitterness. "Your career is over. I will not tolerate theft and betrayal in my family and in my company." He grabbed the phone and dialed a number. "It's me, Pavel Petrovich. Call the police immediately. A statement of fraud and don't forget to include names. Mark Alexeyevich Petrov and Svetlana Igorevna Vasilieva. So, block all their accounts that you can find, and have the lawyers prepare claims for damages in full. Everything they have will go toward compensating my losses. Pavel Petrovich's words thundered like blows on Mark and Sveta. Mark's face turned gray. Sveta collapsed into a chair, her knees buckling. They had lost everything: their jobs, their money, their reputation, their freedom. In one moment, because of Anna's quiet action, the whole city buzzed with rumors. The scandal was loud. The son of Pavel Petrovich, Mark Petrov, director of a large company, and his mistress Svetlana Vasilieva, were arrested on charges of fraud. The trial was long and painful, but the evidence collected by Anna was irrefutable. Each name, each amount, each date was supported by the document. As a result, Mark and Sveta received real terms. Their property was confiscated to compensate for damage to the company Pavel Petrovich. They stayed with nothing. Mark, always so confident and so arrogant, turned into a miserable shadow of himself. Its clapping appearance disappeared. His eyes went out. Sveta, once so self-confident and predatory, looked broken and frightened. Their ambitions, their greed, their contempt for Anna. All this turned against them, destroying their lives. Anna watched this from afar. She did not experience gloating, only deep, quiet satisfaction. She did not want revenge, she wanted justice. And justice triumphed. She began a new life. I found a job in a small but promising company. She was not a housewife, she was an employee, a colleague. She studied, developed, and grew. She rediscovered the joy of independence, the taste for life, which she built according to her rules. Once, a few months later, Pavel Petrovich called her. His voice was tired, but deep gratitude was heard in him. "Anna," he said, "I know that you do not want anything from me, but I must thank you. You saved my company. You saved me from bankruptcy, even if it was done through such pain." "I did what I had to, Pavel Petrovich," Anna answered quietly. "It was my business too." "I know." His voice trembled. "Mark, he deserved it. And you deserve the best." He paused. "If you someday you will need anything, Anna, just tell me. I'm in your duty." Anna smiled. She did not need anything. She had everything she needed: freedom, dignity, and peace. Life continued. Anna walked along the street. The spring sun caressed her face. She felt light, as if she had thrown off her heavy load. In the past, pain and betrayal remained. Ahead was only a pure, universal road along which she walked with confident steps. Strong, independent, and absolutely free. Her quiet revenge was her greatest victory. M.